Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today's video is about 10 tips for passing the bar exam, and these are my tips from my personal experience. My first tip is practice, practice, practice. That's the most important thing, and it is most important to practice MBE questions. I wouldn't say that you shouldn't practice ME or MPT, but I would definitely say you need to practice MBE more than you need to practice MPT and ME, since you've always taken theoretical exams in which you've written long answers. So ME is comparatively easier, at least in my opinion, and MPT too, because there are only two MPT questions, two sets of MPT questions. It's relatively easier to do MPT and ME without practice or with less practice, but for ME it is really important to practice a lot for MBE. For practice, make use of Adaptibar or UWord or whatever you can get your hands on. It's really important to practice as many questions as possible, even if you're just doing Barbary or Themis or any of these courses. Just make sure you're practicing a lot. Now, this tip number 2 is to limit your chill time. That is honestly from my personal experience, that during the bar prep I try not going out too much or not extending my chill time or rest time. If I've decided that I'm going to chill or go out or even rest for 2 hours, I try and keep that for 2 hours. And in general, I limited going out completely, because if you're like me, it's very difficult for me to get back into the flow of studying. If I've studied for say about 4 hours continuously, I used to take like an hour break and get back to it. I never did so that okay, I've studied for 4 hours and now I've taken a break for 2 days and then I've come back studying. That is not possible for the kind of person I am. I needed to take short breaks, limited breaks, so that I can get back to studying and maintain my flow. My third tip is very specifically for MPT and during the bar exam. It's really important. There are 2 sets of MPTs that you need to complete. It is really important that you dedicate equal amount of time for each of the MPT. It's I think the MPT structure is such that you have total 3 hours with 2 large MPT questions. So I would suggest that keep a watch on the clock. Make sure that you're doing one MPT in 1.5 hours and the second in the other 1.5 hours. Even if you think in the first MPT you can write more, you can write better, but you're past the 1.5 hour mark, stop writing then and there and start with the second MPT. Because it's okay if you have an average or a little above average 2 MPTs rather than have one great MPT and one like really bad MPT. So just make sure that you dedicate equal amount of time for both the MPTs. My fourth tip is that at least 2 weeks before the exam, you should have completed your prep, as in you should have completed your coursework, and in the 2 weeks before the bar exam, you are just reviewing and you're only practicing. You should not be reading something completely new in the last 2 weeks of the bar exam, because you won't have any review time left, and revising is as important as study. My 5th tip is that you need to time yourself while practicing. At least how it went for me was that while practicing, my issue was that I could never finish the exam, the practice questions in time. If I've dedicated say about how many ever questions I have to complete within 1 hour, I could never do that. I used to take at least 20 minutes more than the allotted time. So it is really important that you time yourself while practicing. And now tip number 6 is that you practice during the exam hours, so that you are aware of if you feel sleepy during the exam and what your attention span is like during the exam hours. So that is really important, that check your exam hours. What time does the exam start? I think it starts at about 9 a.m. I'm not sure. You can check online, and then make sure you practice at least during the early hours of the day, so that you know what your attention span, what your behavior is like during those hours. Now tip number 7 is something, it depends on the individual, honestly, and this really helped me. You should so the tip is that sleep well and avoid eating junk food and oily food. This is honestly something personal, and it may not be applicable to everyone, or many people don't cook at home, but even if you don't cook at home, I would suggest like keeping your food light, with less oil, and order healthy food. The reason is that because it's a memory test, so sleep is really important, because sleeping well helps retain information. And I say avoid eating out is that you should avoid feeling sick. And I feel if you eat junk a lot, or if you eat out a lot, it kind of makes you lazy, and you don't have that kind of enthusiasm to study that is required during those 2 months. So I would suggest that you try and cut out junk food and sleep well. At least I understand if the last 2 weeks, because you're rushing, you're not able to sleep well and you are studying through the night, but at least the initial days when you are studying everything for the first time, try and get as much as sleep you can and study the remaining hours that you have. Now my tip number 8 is that it's okay if you're not able to finish 100% of Barbary or Themis. Again, I'm not saying that you should not complete the coursework. You should finish studying all the subjects and everything on the topic, on the subject. But Barbary and Themis have these many extra things that you need to watch and you need to do. Honestly, I think just finished 40% of Barbary during my bar exam. I'm not saying that you need to only do 40% and otherwise it's okay. But I'm saying that if you finish like 60%, 70%, don't panic just because you've finished studying everything but you've not completed everything that Barbary or Themis has to offer. It's okay. Now tip number 9. Since this is a memory exam, I do not exam based on your memory or whatever you can remember, I do not recommend studying for more than 3 months. But of course this can vary upon if you're working, so you need more time. But if you're not working and you're only dedicating yourself to this bar exam, I don't think you should take more than 3.5, maximum 3.5 months. Honestly, because it's like I said, it's a memory exam. It's very important for you to retain the information, and the more the time passes, likely it is that you're going to forget the information what you've studied. So again, this is a very personal opinion. This you can study for 4 months or 5 months looking at your own situation. But for somebody who leads a regular life has decided to take a break from work to study for the bar exam, I think 3 months, 3.5 months is enough. Okay, my last tip, my tip number 10 is that while studying, please make little notes or a 1-pager note or some flashcards, because it is really important that just the day before the exam or 2 days before the exam, when you need to review everything very quickly, those really come in handy. Or as simple as this, buy Critical Pass or any good flashcards that are available in the market. I used Critical Pass and that was really helpful. When I reached, I took the exam in Albany, and then the day I reached Albany, the next day was my exam, and all I did the previous day was go over the flashcards, and I thought that was really helpful.